They say life begins at 40, but the truth is peace begins at 70. The problem? Most people carry too much baggage to ever feel it. If you're over 70 and still holding on to certain things you don't need anymore, they could be the very reason you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or even restless in your own home. The good news is there's real freedom in letting go, not just of clutter, but of mindsets, routines, and habits that no longer serve you. So here's a simple but powerful truth. After 70, it's not about adding more. It's about subtracting wisely. In this video, we're going to talk about 7 things you should throw away, not because they're bad, but because your peace is more important. These aren't just old items in the back of your closet. They're things that quietly steal your joy, your comfort, even your health. And once they're gone, you'll be amazed at the difference. Let's start with something you might not expect: the clothes that don't fit anymore. And no, this isn't about fashion or trends. It's about space and simplicity. Most people over 70 have a closet full of just-in-case clothes. You know, the pants you haven't worn since 2003, but think might come in handy for a wedding that never comes. The jackets you keep even though they squeeze your shoulders or ride up in the back. That stack of t-shirts you haven't touched in a decade, all faded and stretched. The thing is, every piece of clothing you keep takes up mental and emotional energy. It's one more decision to make, one more thing to sort, wash, or feel guilty about not wearing. Letting go of these items isn't admitting defeat. It's making room for comfort, ease, and yes, dignity. Keep what fits. Keep what makes you feel good. Let go of the rest. You'll be surprised how much lighter you feel, mentally and physically, when your closet only holds clothes that actually serve your life today, not the life you had 20 years ago. Now, let's talk about something even more powerful: the guilt you've been carrying. And no, it's not visible like an old coat or a broken lamp. It's the silent weight that follows you around, whispering in the background. Guilt over things you said or didn't say. Regrets about how you raised your children, how your marriage ended, how your career wrapped up. You might not talk about it much, but you feel it in quiet moments, when you're trying to sleep, when you see a photo that stirs up memories. But here's the truth: guilt has no role in a peaceful life, not after 70. You've lived through decades of growth, love, mistakes, and lessons. You've done your best with what you knew at the time. And holding on to guilt won't change the past. It only steals from your present. So it's time to release it. Write it down, speak it aloud, pray on it, talk it through with someone. Whatever helps you let it go. Because guilt is like a rock in your shoe. It may seem small, but carry it long enough and it'll wear you down. Speaking of carrying things, let's move on to something a little more physical, but equally draining: duplicate clutter. Ever notice how the older we get, the more we end up with 3 can openers, 5 measuring cups, and 2 irons? We hold on to these extras thinking, well, what if one breaks? But after 70, simplicity is your best friend. You don't need 3 of anything. One good, reliable item is enough. In fact, having less often makes things easier to find, easier to clean, and easier to enjoy. Imagine opening your kitchen drawer and seeing just what you use. No digging, no shuffling, no frustration. Or walking into your garage and not being overwhelmed by years of stuff you haven't touched. Clearing duplicate clutter isn't about downsizing your life. It's about upgrading your peace of mind. And the best part? You don't have to toss it all. You can donate, gift, or even sell things if you'd like. But the goal is simple: create space for calm, not chaos. And while we're talking about physical space, there's one more thing that deserves a closer look: old papers. Now I know some of these feel important: tax records, medical forms, receipts from the 90s. But here's what most people don't realize: you only need to keep a small portion of these papers. The rest? They're just taking up drawers, boxes, and mental space. If you got a file cabinet full of documents that haven't seen the light of day in years, it's time for a little paper detox. Start with anything that's obviously outdated: expired warranties, old insurance policies, user manuals for appliances you no longer own. Then check if there's anything that could be digitized or stored more simply. Better yet, ask a family member or a trusted friend to help you set up a simple system so you never feel buried under paper again. It's amazing how much peace you can feel when you walk into a room that no longer holds piles of paperwork whispering, "You still need to deal with me." Because here's the truth: you've dealt with enough. Now's the time to enjoy the space you're in, not feel burdened by it. Letting go isn't always easy. Sometimes it stirs up emotions we didn't even know were still hanging around. But with every item you release, with every drawer you clear, you make space. Not just in your home, but in your mind. Space for laughter, for rest, for meaningful moments with people you love. Because peace doesn't come from having more, it comes from needing less. And once you begin to feel that freedom, even just a little bit, it becomes addictive in the best possible way. You start noticing all the small things weighing you down, things you once thought were harmless or even helpful. But the more you look around, the more you realize some things just don't belong in your life anymore, like toxic relationships. Yes, even after 70, these can linger. And often they're not loud or dramatic, they're subtle. A friend who constantly complains and never asks how you're doing. A family member who only calls when they need something. Someone who belittles your choices, makes you question yourself, or leaves you feeling drained after every conversation. It's tough, especially when it's someone you've known for years, or someone you feel obligated to stay connected with. But here's a gentle reminder, your time is precious. You don't owe it to anyone to be their emotional punching bag or their therapist. You deserve relationships that are mutual, uplifting, and full of respect. Letting go doesn't always mean cutting someone out harshly. It can be a quiet shift, less time spent, more boundaries, more energy focused on the people who light you up, not wear you down. And here's something else to consider, the need to keep up with trends, with technology, with what the neighbor's doing. Somewhere along the way, society told us we have to stay relevant or risk being left behind. So we try. We push ourselves to stay updated, to still be with it, to wear clothes we don't like or use gadgets we don't care about, just to feel like we're not falling behind. But here's the truth. After 70, you don't have to prove anything. You've already earned the right to live life on your own terms. You don't need to chase the latest phone or force yourself into styles that don't feel like you. Throw away the pressure to impress. Trade it for authenticity. The people who truly matter in your life aren't impressed by how hip you are. They care about how you make them feel, about your stories, your wisdom, your presence. And speaking of pressure, let's talk about old routines that no longer serve you. This one can sneak up on you. Maybe it's a morning ritual you've kept since your working days, or a way of doing chores that used to make sense when the house was full of kids. Maybe you still cook for 4 people, even though it's just you and your spouse. Or you clean the garage every weekend out of habit, not need. Our routines are like old friends. They bring comfort, but sometimes they also keep us stuck. Life changes and our routines should, too. It's okay to adjust, to make things easier, to ask, does this still make sense of where I am in life right now? If it doesn't, give yourself permission to stop doing it. You're not lazy for wanting more ease. You're wise. A peaceful life isn't built on constantly staying busy. It's built on choosing what actually matters and releasing the rest. You don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. just because you always did. You don't have to eat dinner at 5 p.m. on the dot unless it still feels right for you. You're allowed to reimagine your day so it fits who you are now, not who you were 20 years ago. Now, let's not forget something that hides in the background but has a huge impact: negative self-talk. It's sneaky. It sounds like, I'm too old to try that, or I don't want to be a burden, or I'm just not good at that stuff. And the worst part? It feels so normal, we barely notice it anymore. But words are powerful, even the ones we speak to ourselves, especially the ones we speak to ourselves. When you tell yourself you can't learn, you won't. When you decide you're too old, your world shrinks. But when you say, let's try it, or I'm worth the effort, you open up your life again. It doesn't mean pretending everything's perfect. It means being kind, patient, gentle. Think about how you talk to a grandchild or a good friend. That's how you should talk to yourself. Let go of the harshness. Let go of the guilt-driven inner voice. Replace it with encouragement, curiosity, and compassion. After all, you've earned that. And maybe more than anything else, it's time to throw away the belief that your best years are behind you, because they're not. Not if you don't want them to be. Life doesn't expire at 70. In fact, it often becomes more meaningful, more relaxed, more beautiful. But only if you allow yourself to see it that way. What if this stage of life isn't the end of something, but the beginning? What if you still have new favorite meals to discover, new places to visit, new friendships to enjoy, and yes, even new parts of yourself to meet? It's all possible. But you can't move forward while looking backward. You got to throw away the idea that it's too late. It's not too late to learn how to paint. It's not too late to mend that relationship. It's not too late to walk a little more, sleep a little better, or finally take that trip you've been putting off. You just have to believe that your story is still unfolding. Every day you wake up, you get to decide, do I hold on to what weighs me down, or do I let it go and make space for something better? And the moment you decide to make space for something better, well, that's when life begins to feel lighter. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. Suddenly, you can breathe again. You start noticing little joys you might have overlooked. The way the sun hits your kitchen table in the morning. The sound of birds outside your window. A good cup of tea. These small things become big when you're not weighed down by what no longer belongs in your life. But sometimes it's not just stuff or routines or guilt that needs letting go. Sometimes it's the fear of being alone. This one's quiet. It doesn't always shout. It shows up in moments of stillness, when the house is quiet, when the phone doesn't ring, when holidays come and go a little too quietly. Maybe you've lost someone close. Maybe friends have moved away. Maybe your family's grown and busy with their own lives. That emptiness can feel heavy, and many people carry it around, pretending it doesn't hurt. But here's something worth remembering. Being alone doesn't have to mean being lonely. There's a difference. One is physical, the other is emotional. And while we can't always change who's around us, we can change how we spend our time and how we think about solitude. Let go of the belief that being alone means something is wrong with you. It doesn't. It just means you have room to fill, with things you enjoy, with new connections, with quiet moments that actually bring peace. It's okay to talk to strangers at the park. It's okay to join a group you've never tried before. It's okay to invite someone over for coffee, even if you haven't seen them in years. And it's okay to learn to enjoy your own company, because once you stop fearing solitude, it stops controlling you. In fact, it can become a source of strength, your quiet place to rest, to think, to dream a little. And while you're dreaming, maybe it's time to throw away that box of someday items. You know, the one tucked in the attic, stored in the back of the garage, full of things you were saving for a rainy day, or a project you were going to get around to, or a trip you always said you'd take when the timing was right. We all hold on to someday, but if we're being honest, someday has a sneaky way of never arriving unless we chase it down ourselves. So those candles you're saving for a special occasion, light them tonight. That beautiful sweater you're waiting to wear it to the grocery store. The scrapbook you were going to make with your grandkids, call them up and start now. Life isn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about choosing to live now with what you have, where you are. Those items in your someday box, either use them or pass them on to someone who will. Don't let them collect dust. Let them collect joy, memories, laughter. Now, I want to say something a little more personal, and I hope it resonates. You don't have to be the keeper of everyone else's memories. That's a heavy role many people over 70 carry. You hold on to old furniture because it belonged to your parents. You store boxes of school papers from your kids, even though your kids are now 45 with kids of their own. You keep dishes, linens, decorations, not because you love them, but because you feel responsible for their history. But here's the gentle truth. History is not kept in things. It's kept in your stories, in your heart, in the way you laugh when you remember something, in the way you pass along lessons to the people you love. You don't have to keep the china set if you haven't used it in 10 years. You don't have to hold on to the rocking chair if it creaks and hurts your back. You're allowed to let go and still honor the memory. And if there's something truly precious, take a photo, write the story down, share it with someone. That way, the memory lives on without taking up space you need now. Emotional clutter can be even heavier than physical clutter. And letting go of it doesn't erase your past. It just clears the path for your present. There's one more thing I want to mention, and I say this with all the love and care in the world. Let go of the idea that your role in life is to please everyone else. You've spent decades being everything for everyone. A provider, a caregiver, a peacemaker, maybe even the glue that held your family together. And those are beautiful roles, no doubt. But at this stage in life, it's time to do things because they're right for you, not just because someone else expects it. You don't have to say yes to every request. You don't have to attend every event. You don't have to cook the holiday dinner if your back's hurting and you'd rather rest. It's not selfish to put yourself first. It's smart. It's healthy. And honestly, It sets a good example for the younger people in your life. You're showing them that self-respect doesn't retire. If you want to spend your afternoon in the garden instead of going to a loud family gathering, that's okay. If you'd rather travel than babysit, that's okay too. The people who love you will understand, and if they don't, that's not your burden to carry. This season of life is meant to be lived with intention, not obligation. So breathe. Take inventory, not just of your home, but of your heart. Ask yourself, what have I been holding on to that's no longer helping me? What can I gently, gracefully release? Because the truth is, peace doesn't come from a perfect life. It comes from letting go of what no longer fits and choosing what brings joy, lightness, and purpose. Because when you begin to live with intention, not out of obligation, not out of habit, but from the quiet place inside you that knows what truly matters, that's when peace finds you. Not the kind of peace that comes and goes depending on the weather or your schedule, but the kind that settles in, soft and steady. The kind you feel when you sit down in a room that feels like home again, not a storage unit of your past. And here's something many of us never talk about openly, but we should let go of the fear of aging itself. Yes, that deep, unspoken discomfort with gray hair, slower steps, wrinkles in the mirror, or the way some people begin to treat you differently once they find out your age. For years, we're told that getting older is something to resist, fight, hide. That youth is the only version of beauty, the only season worth celebrating. But here's the truth that many people miss. Aging isn't a loss, it's an arrival. It's arriving at wisdom, at clarity, at the ability to see what matters and what doesn't, without the fog of trying to prove yourself. At 70, you are more you than you've ever been. And that's not something to mourn, it's something to honor, to embrace. Let go of the shame around aging, the worry that you're less valuable or less capable. You are not less, you are more. More thoughtful, more experienced, more tuned into life's quiet joys. And when you stop fearing the number and start living the day, everything changes. You begin to look at yourself not through the eyes of a society chasing youth, but through your own eyes that have seen so much and still have more to see. So if you've been spending time and energy trying to slow the clock or hide the signs of time, take a breath. Ask yourself, who am I doing this for? And what if I chose to live proudly, boldly, and honestly instead? Throw away the fear. Replace it with curiosity, with gratitude, with presence. You're not running out of time. You're standing in a season that still holds beauty, growth, and surprise. Now, after everything we talked about, the closet's cleared, the guilt released, the routines reimagined, the relationships reevaluated, what you're left with is something really special. Space. Not just physical space, but emotional and spiritual room to breathe, to rest, to enjoy. And in that space, something begins to grow. Peace, yes, but also joy, lightness, purpose. That purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't mean starting a new business or traveling the world, unless that excites you, of course. Sometimes, purpose looks like baking your favorite pie and sharing it with a neighbor, calling a friend just to say you love them, sitting on the porch and waving at people walking by, starting each morning with a deep breath and a whispered, "I'm still here," and that's enough. Because no matter your age, no matter what you've been through, your life still has meaning. You still make a difference, whether you realize it or not. Your smile brightens someone's day. Your stories carry lessons that no book ever could. Your presence, your resilience, your laughter, it all matters. And if there's one thing I hope you carry with you from this conversation, it's this: you are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to live lighter. You are allowed to let go of anything that no longer fits the person you are today. Not because it was never valuable, but because you've outgrown it. And that's not loss, that's growth. So as you move forward from here, maybe walk through your home with fresh eyes. Look at your habits with a little more curiosity. Notice the stories you tell yourself, especially the quiet ones, and ask gently, do I still need this? Whether it's an object, a thought, a relationship, or fear, ask yourself if it still serves the peaceful, joyful life you're creating. If it doesn't, bless it for what it was, and let it go. And now, I want to hear from you. What have you let go of that brought you more peace? What's something in your life you're finally ready to release? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Let's support each other in this journey. And if you found this video helpful, inspiring, or comforting, go ahead and give a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like more conversations like this. Because around here, we believe that aging isn't about fading away, it's about shining in a new way. Thank you for spending this time with me. Here's to soft mornings, light hearts, and living the rest of your life on your terms. Here's to living your best life at any age.